guys, welcome back to my channel for another video. My name is Sarah and today we are going to have a chat about homeschool co-ops. And this video is a collaboration hosted by my friend Stephanie at Schulte Sweeties. So you know how this works. I will leave a link to the playlist in the description below so you can check out the other videos on this topic really easily. And I encourage you to do that after watching this one. I almost wasn't going to do a video on co-ops because I kind of figured this might be a topic everyone kind of knows about or has experience with. But I have to remind myself that even though I might be familiar with co-ops, doesn't mean every other homeschool mom out there is. So I really do hope this is helpful for someone out there. Case in point, a group of friends and I were hanging out the other week. Our kids were playing together, having a great time, and one of the gals asked the rest of us something along the lines of, so how do you know if a co-op is right for you? How do you know if you should join one? And of course, each of us pretty much had our own opinions on that because the answer is pretty unique depending on things like your schedule, the ages of your kids, your learning goals. But we had a good discussion, shared our experiences, and it kind of revealed to me that maybe there were some other people that have the same question. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, how to know if a homeschool co-op is the right fit for your family. A little background if you're new here, I've got 4 kids. The oldest is 14. I have twins who are 12 and my youngest will be 7 in a couple of weeks. We've homeschooled from the beginning since my oldest was in kindergarten, and we've been part of a homeschool co-op pretty much from the beginning as well. I think if I'm remembering correctly, the only year we didn't participate in a co-op was our very first year. I wanted to use that year to learn, get our feet wet, and kind of lay the foundation of our homeschool before I added too much to my plate. But I definitely heard about co-ops from the get-go. It seems like when you're new to homeschooling, it feels like joining a co-op is part of the official checklist of being a homeschooler. I see it all the time online. New homeschool moms are looking for co-ops in their area, really simply looking for ways to get connected to other homeschooling families. I think co-ops can be wonderful. We've been a part of the same one for years now, and it's been such a blessing in a lot of ways. But here's the truth I want to give you freedom in. Co-ops aren't automatically right for everyone, and they're definitely not necessarily right for every season. So today I thought I would walk you through 3 things that actually matter when you're trying to decide if a co-op is a good fit for your unique homeschool. These are the kind of things that came to my mind when my friend posed this question the other week. So let's start with the foundation. Your family's priorities. When you're trying to figure out whether a co-op is right for you, one of the first things to think about is why you're considering it in the first place. And I don't mean just surface level why, like, oh, it might be fun. I mean, think about the deeper reasons, because every homeschool family has different needs, and co-ops are going to meet those needs in different ways. Maybe your kids are craving deeper friendships and you want more consistent social time. Maybe you're hoping for enrichment classes, things like art, drama, something with more science experiments. Those types of things can be a lot more fun in group settings. That's kind of why I started teaching Latin at our homeschool co-op. It was way more fun for my kids to tackle this subject with friends. But I also think it's important to ask yourself, are you considering a co-op because you genuinely want it or because you feel like you're supposed to? That's important to distinguish. Sometimes moms feel this quiet pressure, like joining a co-op somehow makes you a real homeschooler, or that it will fix all the things that you feel insecure about. You know, maybe you're not feeling confident enough to teach certain subjects, or you feel like you need more structure, or like I said, more social time for your kids. You just want that community. And all of those are valid reasons, but I think identifying the reason why you want to join a co-op in the first place is so helpful. If you want structure, that's great, because some co-ops are built around routine and accountability. If you want friendships, that's great too. Lots of co-ops are centered around field trips and fun outings and things like that. If you want to outsource 1 or 2 subjects because you're overwhelmed, that's also valid. But if your reason is pressure, guilt, comparison, or fear that you're not enough on your own, that's when I think it's worth pausing and praying before just jumping in. And something else that's important to acknowledge is that your priorities, your why, might change as your kids grow. What a kindergartner or a 2nd grader needs from a co-op could be very different from what a middle schooler or a high schooler needs. Younger kids often just need fun, hands-on learning and a place to enjoy being with other kids. High schoolers, on the other hand, need specific hours, more consistent instruction, and more solid coursework, especially if they're trying to earn credit. And depending on the co-op, that can be hard to achieve in a group that only meets once a week. So that being said, as you're thinking through your reasons, it's also really helpful to get a sense of what type of co-op you're looking at. Not all co-ops are designed the same. That's actually a good thing because it means that there's room for a lot of different families and needs. We're lucky to have a lot of different co-op options in our area. I know not every place is like that, but around where we are, I found that some co-ops are more academically focused. They've got more structured classes, and there might be more rigorous pace that supports students that need to earn that high school credit or need to dive deeper into certain subjects. Others I found can be more enrichment based, where the goal is hands-on learning, fun electives, creativity, friendships, and maybe just trying things that you might not normally do at home. And then there are blended co-ops that fall somewhere in the middle. None of these models are better or worse. They simply serve different purposes. So the key is knowing that not all co-ops are the same in what they offer and knowing what your family needs the most in this season. So if your goal is to find a place where your kids can explore new interests, learn alongside friends, maybe enjoy more group activities, an enrichment style co-op might be perfect. But if your older kids need more structure or accountability for specific subjects, you might want something more academic, or you might choose to keep certain subjects at home, some of those core subjects where you can stay consistent day to day. So understanding your why makes it much easier to see which type of co-op will serve your family well and which one might create frustration simply because it's not built for what you need right now. Once you've identified your why, the next thing to think about is your actual capacity, because co-op days can be big days. They're full, they're busy, and they do require more from us than a typical homeschool day at home. We've had years where we've done 4 classes a day with our co-op, and we were there from maybe 10 a.m. to 2 or 3 p.m. Right now, we're only taking 2 classes at our co-op, but it still takes a chunk out of our day. So we're there from about 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. I could fit a lot into that time if we were simply staying at home, but for us, we enjoy a lot of benefits from our co-op community, so it's worth it to us. But on co-op days, I plan for the fact that we won't have much time for many other subjects that day. Some of the curriculum that we use is only 4-day per week curriculum, so I simply don't schedule certain subjects on co-op days, and that's just what works for us. I will say that even when my kids were younger, when my youngest was just a baby, I really loved the production of co-op days because it gave me that excuse to get everyone out of the house doing something different, maybe when I wasn't as motivated to do it. But that was me, and you just have to think about what season you're in. You might be in a different state of mind from one year to the next, and it's okay to look at your calendar and your energy level and say, this just doesn't fit right now. Because apart from your own homeschooling schedule, you need to consider the fact that there are typically expectations and requirements of the co-op itself. Some co-ops are going to be super casual. Show up, take classes, go home. Others are going to function more like hybrid schools with homework, projects. You have to teach classes, be on a committee, or volunteer in some way. And again, None of this is bad. It's just the reality of how some co-ops operate. You want to make sure that the expectations match what you and your family can handle. Finally, whatever co-op you're thinking about joining, you should consider its culture. Every co-op is going to have its own personality. Some are going to feel warm, welcoming, they're going to be organized, peaceful, and others might feel chaotic or overwhelming. One size does not fit all. And when I first started, I didn't realize that there were so many different options for co-ops or so many different things to consider. But you're going to want to take a day to visit any co-op that you're considering joining. Many should allow you to do this if you ask. And you want to pay attention to how communication works, how the leadership leads, how discipline is handled, and how your kids respond to the environment. Sometimes you'll walk into a co-op and immediately think, this feels like home. Other times, even if everything looks great on paper, looks great on their website, something just feels off, and that's okay. You don't have to ignore that feeling. And if you're a Christian homeschool mom, this kind of goes along with considering the culture, but another important piece to think about is the spiritual environment of the co-op. Not every group handles faith the same way, so it's worth looking into things like whether the co-op has a statement of faith, how closely the families align with it, and what kinds of classes are offered. Some co-ops are very clearly Christian in their mission and curriculum, while others are more neutral or mixed. And again, I'm not saying one is necessarily automatically better. It just depends on what your family needs, because it can become challenging if you expect one thing spiritually and the group operates differently. You want to make sure you're comfortable with the worldview being communicated in the classes, the types of discussions your kids might be a part of, and whether anything taught might conflict with your core beliefs. Again, not because anyone is intentionally doing anything wrong, but simply because different families and teachers come from different backgrounds. So taking time to understand the faith component up front can save a lot of confusion or frustration later and help you choose a co-op that truly supports your values. Before I wrap this up, I want to say something that I hope really encourages you. Co-op is not the only way to find community in your homeschool. I say that as someone who truly loves our co-op and has found a wonderful Christ-centered community there. It has been such a blessing to our family. But you can absolutely thrive in homeschooling even if a co-op doesn't fit your season right now or you don't have any good ones near you. You can do this homeschooling thing incredibly well on your own or, alongside a co-op. If you love the idea of community, but the co-op options near you don't feel like the right fit or you're already stretched thin in this season, there are so many other meaningful ways to build friendships and connection. So, things like getting some friends together and doing park days, small learning groups where, different moms teach a subject based on their own personal strengths. Maybe you're meeting at a library every other week, something like that. Your church activities. Maybe you have field trip groups or you're just getting together with play dates with friends. You're serving together as a family, or even gathering regularly with just one or two like-minded families. All of these things can create a rich, life-giving homeschool for your kids. It doesn't have to be big, and it doesn't have to be structured necessarily to matter. If you're in a place where you're thinking, okay, I want community, but I don't even know what's available near me, one resource that I really recommend checking out is Homeschool Hall. I'm going to leave a link to them below. They have a directory where you can search for co-ops, classes, activities, and homeschool-friendly programs that are available in your area. It's a really helpful way to see what's out there without having to dig through 100 Facebook groups or, hoping you bump into the right mom at the park. So if you're exploring options or you want to get a feel for what's available in your area or locally, definitely take a look. It might be the thing that helps you find your next great community connection. And remember, the season you're in right now won't last forever. Whatever worked for you 2 years ago might not work now. And what works beautifully for you this year might not work the next year. You have complete freedom to join a co-op, to try one for a semester, to take a break, to switch to a different style of group, or skip co-op entirely. There isn't one right way to do this, just the way that fits your family and the season that God has you in. So I hope this gives you just a little framework for knowing whether a homeschool co-op might be the right fit for your family. If you found this helpful, give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, and those are kind of my 3 criteria things to think about, but I'm sure I missed something. So if you guys can think of something else, please share it below. And don't forget to check out the link to the playlist below as well if you're curious to hear what other homeschool moms have to say about co-ops. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time.